What if you could see the hidden motives behind every conversation you have, every decision someone makes, every single conflict? Well, Robert Greene's incredible book, The Laws of Human Nature, basically gives us the keys to the kingdom. It peels back the curtain on the unconscious patterns that shape all of us, including you. So, for the next few minutes, we're going to unlock some of those forces that secretly run our lives.
Think about the last time you got into a really heated argument, right? Your heart is pounding, words are just flying out of your mouth. And then maybe an hour later, once everything's cooled down, you're just sitting there thinking, why why did I say that? That's not even what I really believe. It happens to all of us, and it points to a pretty fundamental truth about who we are.
I like to think of myself as a pretty logical person. But here's the big idea from Greene's very first law. Most of the time, our emotions are the ones in the driver's seat. Our logic, it's just the passenger in the back, desperately trying to draw a map of where you've already been. So, if we really want to understand other people, we have to start by looking in the mirror first. That's why our first section here is all about mastering those unseen, and let's be honest, often irrational forces that are pulling our own strings. And that brings us right to the law of irrationality. We love to believe we're these cool, calculated beings, but deep down, there's this constant tug of war going on between our emotional self and our rational self. And just understanding that this conflict is happening, that's the first real step to getting any kind of control. To get why this happens, just picture your brain in layers, kind of like a cake. Your ancient emotional brain, the limbic system, was built for pure survival. It reacts in a split second. But your newer, more rational brain, the neocortex, it's super powerful, but it is slow. It needs time to warm up. So what does that mean? It means by the time your logical brain is just starting to analyze a situation, your emotional brain has already hit the gas. So how do you actually get back in control? Well, first, just name the emotion. Seriously, just saying, okay, I'm feeling angry, actually weakens its hold on you. Then trace it back. Why are you really feeling this way? But the most important part, the absolute game changer, is step 3. Create a pause. That little gap between what happens and how you react, that's where all your power is. Okay, so we've looked at our irrational side. Now let's dig into another huge force that shapes our inner world. One we don't always like to admit to, our own narcissism. Picture this. You're at a dinner party, you're so excited to share some big news, and right in the middle of your sentence, a friend just jumps in and totally hijacks the conversation. So annoying, right? Well, that little moment is a perfect snapshot of a universal human habit. See, Greene says that narcissism isn't just an on or off switch, it's a spectrum. On one far end, you've got your deep narcissists, people totally consumed by their own ego, just desperate for validation. But on the other end, you have healthy narcissists, people who are confident for sure, but they're also empathetic. They know how to listen. And the truth is, all of us are sliding back and forth along this spectrum every single day. So, I've got a little challenge for you. In your next few conversations, just watch yourself. How many times do you steer the topic back to you? Do you ever find yourself planning what you're going to say next while the other person is still talking? Just noticing these little things in ourselves is the first massive step toward building real, genuine connections. All right, we've done some internal work. Now it's time to shift our focus outward. Let's start decoding the people we have to deal with every single day. Think about it for a second. You walk into a job interview, and you're projecting this image of pure confidence. But later that night with your friends, you're a totally different person, right? We all wear masks. Every single interaction we have is kind of a performance on some invisible stage. And this is exactly why you can't just listen to people's words. It's crazy, but studies show that only 7% of emotional meaning comes from the actual words we use. 7. The real story, the other 93%, is being told by their tone of voice, their posture, their facial expressions. So how do you start seeing behind the performance? You have to look for the cracks. Look for incongruence. You know when their words say, I'm fine, but their body language is screaming, I'm not fine? Watch for sudden shifts from how they normally act. If your normally talkative friend is suddenly quiet, something might be up. These little inconsistencies are where the truth leaks out. And behind a lot of these social masks, there's another powerful hidden emotion: envy. You're scrolling through social media, you see a friend's success, and you feel that little unexpected sting. That's the law of envy kicking in. It's a hardwired human thing. And the real danger isn't the feeling itself, it's how we hide it, usually by turning our envy into some kind of moral judgment or criticism of the other person. Okay, So we've looked at our own minds, we've talked about how to read other people. Now let's zoom out to the final and maybe the most important level, how to win the long game with strategy and purpose. This all comes down to the law of short-sightedness. See, most people go through life like a beginner chess player. They only react to the piece right in front of them, and they always get trapped. A master, though, a master sees the whole board. They're thinking 10 moves ahead. And we fall into these traps all the time. We get stuck in what Greene calls tactical hell. We win the little argument but end up damaging a really important relationship. We react to every breaking news alert. We get lost perfecting a tiny detail on a project while the big picture just sails right by. So how do you escape this? You practice what's called strategic detachment. You learn to connect what you're doing today to your biggest goals, and critically, you surround yourself with people who also think long-term. Before you make a snap decision, just ask yourself this one simple question. Will this even matter in 5 years? That question alone can change everything. And really, long-term thinking is pretty much impossible if you don't have a destination in mind. This is the law of aimlessness. Think about two paths. On one, you've got Alex, who's just chasing after the next thrill, money, status. On the other, you have Maya, who's driven by a clear sense of purpose. By age 35, Alex feels lost. Maya has built a meaningful life. The difference isn't talent, it's direction. Your purpose is your compass.
So, in the end, understanding all these laws gives you a choice. Human nature is basically a script that's been playing out for thousands of years. Most people are just actors, unconsciously reading their lines. But if you take the time to understand the script, you can become the director of your own life. The choice is yours.